In recent times, I discovered there's a strange way people hear. I went somewhere, preached a message, stirred hunger in the hearts of people. And a 500 level medical student packed his bag from school and traced me from Ilorin to Benue. That God told him he will stand in his. I said, no. That's not how they stand. Even in your lecture hall, you can stand. Pursuit of God does not mean your mind should not be refined. In fact, one of the problems we have in the church today is because people of unrefined minds drag a lot of things into kingdom that is not kingdom. That's why you are seeing native doctors now on the altar and doing strange things, and they call it prophetic action. So please, do business, excel in life, participate in politics, do everything you need to do. In fact, when I round up, you understand that when you attain fullness, then government begins. And in government, we conquer every mountain of influence. So please. So there are three governments that makes for the activation of the ministry of the fullness. The first is the government of life. It will be impossible for you to touch or grow in God until his life is imputed into you. In fact, the moment life shut down, man lost growth and ascension in God. This is what the Bible calls death. When Adam disobeyed God, he said, in the day that you sin, you shall surely die. And Adam actually died. But we saw that death is beyond cessation of life. Because every man God has created will live forever and ever. Because we came from God, we can't end. And so when God is speaking about death, he's not talking about cessation. He's talking about two things. The first thing God is talking about is separation. You are separated from the realm of God. You no longer participate in that realm. The realities that flow out of that realm, you are cut off those realities. And so you become alien. Whereas you were created to live in, with God. And so when you can no longer live in and with God, it is termed a state of death. It's not necessarily cessation. And then the second thing the Bible defines as death is corruption. Corruption. The moment a man is separated from God, the quality and the essence of his being begins to degrade in value. A degradation begins to take place. So if you look at him after a while, there's nothing about him that looks like God anymore. He becomes completely alien. His thought patterns, his actions will be contrary to the ways of God. So death is separation and corruption. And so when the technology of life begins to work, what it does is that it reverses the protocol of corruption, and it also begins to draw you into God's presence. And so when the ministry of the fullness begins in a man's life, what the Holy Ghost does is that he imputes the economy of life back into that man. That's what happened to you when you receive Christ. But it's more than just receiving life. It's about yielding to life until life begins to make you and defy corruption in you and draws you back to God's presence. You may receive life, but you are not operating by life. And so when life comes, life activates a law. That's what Romans 8 verse 2 talks about. He said, the law of the spirit of life have set me free from the law of sin and death. So when you receive Christ, inherent within you now is a law that seeks to alter corruption and also draw you back to God's presence. So a man can have Christ but negates the promptings of life. And so he has Christ, but he will never walk in the fullness. He will begin to grow into the fullness when he begins to yield to the promptings of life that is on his inside. It is as good as natural birth. When a child is born, the first thing that child does is to look for what to eat. You don't need to take the child to school to teach the child hunger. The child comes out immediately crying, because the law of life insists that for this child to live, the child must eat. And what we eat is the presence of God. And so what the law of life will do is to begin to prompt you to seek God, and prompt you to adopt the ways of God as your way. Because if that doesn't happen, you cannot come to that point where you serve God. And the proof that a man is beginning to yield to the promptings of life is not religion, it's sonship. When a man begins to yield to the dictates of life, when you look at him, the law, the protocol of sonship begins to grow on his inside.